Alright you guys, welcome back to the channel. Appreciate you tuning in. Now I'm sure most of you have probably seen the gameplay trailer at least a couple of times at this point. I know I have, especially making these videos on it. So let's take a look at the gameplay trailer again and see if we can touch on some things that you may have missed when you watched it the first or even second time. This point may be a little obvious here, but I just wanted to talk about it for a minute. Sol date May 7th, 2330. That's one of the first things we get on screen there, entering onto Crete, the moon of Ansalon. Basically, Sol is our current solar system, the Earth and Sun's solar system. Why they would put the date of Sol on there from our original solar system while we're in a different system is because time changes, or the length of a year, and keeping track of how time passes as far as the date changes depending on basically how far away or close to a planet's star that you are. Like for instance, in our solar system, planets closer to the sun have shorter years than farther away because it doesn't take as long for a planet to make one full orbit around the sun if it's closer. But further away, it takes much longer, so the years get longer. And then you've got this whole other factor of being out in an entire different solar system, 50 light years away from our current one. It just makes me wonder why they've decided to use Sol time in this star system, 50 light years away. I guess it's an attempt to keep time and dates relative to our original star system, Sol, which I just thought that was really interesting. Maybe some of you guys know a little more and can enlighten me on that. But anyway, moving on. Another thing I wanted to talk about while we're in this part of the gameplay trailer still is the circular meter in the bottom left corner in your heads-up display there. To me, it looks like it serves dually as a type of compass or directional utility, and also sort of a day-night cycle, which it almost looks like, okay, they're on Crete there, so you can see that it's split in half light, half dark. That just tells you, I guess, where the daylight's at or what time it is relative to what planet you're on, possibly. You'll also notice there that it has O2 on one side and CO2 on the other. Considering that we breathe in O2 or oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide or CO2, it looks like there might be a bit of a survival element to this game. Knowing, I guess, which planets you need more O2 to sustain yourself for certain periods of time, and how long that you can be on those planets, and maybe you start to lose oxygen over time, so you can't stay there for very long. I didn't really think a whole lot of that, what I'm saying, when I first saw it, because I just thought it was kind of an interesting way of making the game seem more immersive. But then I thought about it and I was like, wait, you may have to pay close attention to your oxygen levels, because the spacesuit and the helmet there, it's supposed to regulate your oxygen and scrub CO2 actively, because you don't, if you're breathing in oxygen and exhaling CO2, you have to have a way to emit that CO2. So that definitely strikes me as, I guess you could say, survival light. Kind of a small mechanic there to maintain the realism of being in space and needing oxygen. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the survival mechanics in, say, New Vegas Hardcore Edition, where you had to manage your thirst and your hunger and things like that. But that's definitely pretty neat, and it's good attention to detail, and that would definitely add like a whole other element to the game as far as having to change maybe your playstyle depending on how breathable the atmosphere is. Also, you can see there when you're scanning that it changes a little bit, and now it shows you the temperature, the O2 levels, and the gravity of the planet. So Earth's gravity is 1G or 1.0. I'm assuming by the way this is measured here. It's saying 0.55 gravity on Crete, moon of Ansalon. So you've got half of Earth's gravity. So you'd be a lot lighter on this moon. And not only that, but 7 degrees temperature. I'm assuming that's in Celsius, so that's roughly 44 degrees Fahrenheit. So not only is this a really cold moon, but you would also weigh roughly half as much as on Earth here on Crete. Okay, now here going on to New Atlantis on the planet of Jemison. New Atlantis is the capital of the planet Jemison, and this is the headquarters of the United Colonies. So I kind of wanted to refer back to The Greatest Mystery of Starfield Part 2 and talk a little bit about how I think I might have been right about the authoritarian nature or certain levels of oppression coming from the United Colonies on the rest of the settled systems. I do believe it's a possibility that there's somewhat of a galactic embargo on spaceflight or certain types of spaceflight, privately or commercially and it seems to be mostly controlled by the United Colonies, who comes and goes from what planets and where and when, at least to some degree, and you can see evidence of that in the gameplay trailer in parts of the city. And I guess that would explain to some degree why Constellation is actually the last group of space explorers. Because you can see there that their headquarters, or the building you're in when you're talking to the leaders of Constellation, they're actually headquartered in New Atlantis with the United Colonies. So it would make sense if they were sort of the last space explorers acting in an official capacity, or having the resources backed by the United Colonies to achieve any sort of effective space exploration in this time. So I wanted to touch on that a little. I know I've mentioned it before a couple of times in different videos, but the more you pay attention to detail as far as the signs and notices and checkpoints and the slogans of the United Colonies, it sort of starts to take on this kind of dystopian kind of vibe. They seem like a bit of a draconian organization in the way that they handle, security threats and managing their facilities. And you can see that the up there at the top right where it says security and safety, that's like an actual division of the United Colonies, UCSEC, United Colonies Security and Safety. And I think this is the branch of the United Colonies that enforces the standards, the sort of Orwellian standards that they have for the rest of the settled systems. And if you look to the left there, you can see where it says no entry for passengers without valid visa for interplanetary passage. Prohibition on audio-visual recording without permission of UCSS. So they've pretty much banned audio and visual recording, at this facility at least. You can also see down in the bottom right there, they have a sign that says all bags subject to search, all threats taken seriously. So they have a very sort of powerful and imminent presence in the settled systems, and one that I'm sure a lot of people would see as a threatening or oppressive presence. So I just wanted to draw attention to that and show you how the United Colonies and their influence on the settled systems may not be seen as a benevolent one to a lot of people, which would explain why the Freestar Collective has decided to remove themselves from the influence of the United Colonies. So I think a lot of people that align with the UC, or the majority of the people in the settled systems, would probably see the Freestar Collective as possibly even terrorists or extremists. So it looks like there's going to be a lot of lines that are blurred in this game between right and wrong, and who you side with, and how you see the events around you. It would definitely create an interesting sort of choice for you, a kind of dichotomy as far as who you align with and what you see as just or unjust in this universe. Another interesting thing here is in the terminal area of New Atlantis, it says underneath the banner to the left, United Colonies established 2161. And then if we take a look at another shot in the trailer of the outside of Aquila City, underneath the welcome sign, it says established 2167 by Solomon Coe. I'm not sure who Solomon Coe is. I'm sure that's probably somebody that you'll become familiar with depending on how much time you spend around the Freestar Collective. But regardless, it seems that the Freestar Collective was founded roughly 6 years after the establishment of the United Colonies. I guess it took roughly 6 years to start sort of a separatist movement or rebellion to form this collective and basically make Aquila City their home base. And also, we do know from the video that Bethesda released called The Settled Systems that the war between the United Colonies and the Freestar Collective took place in 2310, which is exactly 20 years before the start of the game. Now, if you add up the amount of years between when the Freestar Collective was established and when the first war was between these two factions, it's roughly 143 years. So this wasn't just some immediate conflict that blew up quickly. It apparently took a long time for things to escalate to the level where it was a full-scale war. So yeah, I mean, it was about a century and a half before the Freestar Collective actually went to war with the United Colonies. So there's that, and check this out. This is a still from the gameplay trailer of the outside of Aquila City. Look familiar? Yeah, I thought so. I think we all understood what Todd Howard was talking about when he said that Starfield would be like, quote, Skyrim in space. But that's a little on the nose there, isn't it? But anyway, while we're on the subject of Aquila City, I wanted to take us back to the teaser trailer one more time And look right here on the far right side of the Constellation ship in the trailer, you can see a poster there that has someone playing a violin. Her first name is Alyssa. It's kind of hard to make out her last name. It's got an A sound accent over the E, so it would be Day something, but I don't know, DeMille, De Milano, I don't know. But regardless, you can see under the poster, you don't get the full words, but you can tell what it says. It says Aquila City Live. So this is someone who puts on a musical performance at Aquila City. So if you guys are wondering who that was, I mean, it's not really a big clue as to who she is in the game, but she's definitely a violinist, it looks like, who plays live concerts at Aquila City. So I thought that was pretty interesting as well. Alright, and next I wanted to talk about a couple of the very obvious influences on Starfield from Cyberpunk 2077, or at least the cyberpunk genre as a whole, because I know that this game was inspired by the cyberpunk genre to some degree, which obviously 2077 was inspired by or directly derived from, but at the same time, there are some actual direct influences from the game Cyberpunk 2077 on Starfield. It was talked about in several interviews, and they mentioned Night City and the game as one of their inspirations for Starfield. And you can see here some very obvious references, or at least in my mind, they're fairly obvious, because you've got Paradiso for one in the game, which is very sort of reminiscent of Pacifica in Night City. It kind of has that sort of deserted beach area, palm tree kind of rundown sort of vibe. And then you've got Neon City, which is basically like Night City in Cyberpunk 2077. And that's sort of where this whole NASA punk theme comes into play. It's sort of this idea of this urban decay amidst all of this high-tech futuristic stuff. So I think that's one of the biggest things they wanted to draw inspiration from as far as the cyberpunk genre is concerned, is just this sort of dystopian atmosphere with a lot of very high-tech futuristic things, but also this sort of idea of urban decay and societal decline amidst all that technology. The next thing that I wanted to point out that you'll notice here is in this room inside Aquila City, where the Freestar Collective, I'm assuming, is headquartered, you can see this poster on the wall on the top left. The poster says "Feeding the Front Lines" at the top there, and it shows a picture of this enormous horned beast, and at the feet of this beast is a man standing there calmly. When I saw this, the way I interpreted that is that these beasts are part of the front lines of the Freestar Collective's army. I think there might be some training the local beasts and certain exotic animals and training them as war animals. I can't say for sure if that's the case, but it really does seem to be saying that in the poster. I mean, that's the way that I interpreted that anyway. Feeding the front lines, and this beast and this man standing sort of calmly below the beast, like he's not scared of it, so I assumed that meant the man in the poster is feeding the beast to fight on the front lines. So we may very well see the Freestar Collective using giant beasts and animals from the surrounding area to fight against other factions. That's a really cool concept, and I guess it would kind of fit that sort of rogue element the Freestar Collective has going. It's not just foot soldiers and guns and whatever. It's like we train beasts, these massive four-legged behemoths to fight on our front lines, and that would terrify a lot of people, I think, if they saw that coming mixed with ground troops and other types of warfare. So this next thing that I want to bring to your attention is something that a lot of you are probably already aware of, but I'm going to throw it in here anyway. For those of you that don't know, Pete Hines said in a recent interview talking about Starfield, I believe it was after the Xbox and Bethesda game showcase, or in the extended version, you will be able to dock and board and steal enemy ships. Like, you'll be able to raid enemy ships, and apparently in this picture here, it's showing that you can do this mid-flight and possibly hijack other ships while they're flying around in space, and you can go in there and kill the crew and take over, steal the ship, I guess raid it for parts, loot, especially if you align yourself with the Crimson Fleet. I'm sure there will be a lot of raiding spaceships, so that's another exciting feature of the game to look forward to as well. Okay, so this is the last thing we're going to take a look at as far as things you may have missed in the Starfield gameplay trailer, and it's not a very big one, but it's definitely interesting. This was brought to my attention by a social media post or possibly another YouTube channel, I'm not sure. It shows your player character on one of the clips from the video actually walking on the surface of Mars. And how do we know that? Because you can actually see the Mars Rover. If I show you a side-by-side comparison pic there, you can see that is definitely the Mars Rover. So that's really cool because, you know, it would still be there 300 years later. So that's really cool that you can venture back to our solar system in the game and then go visit Mars. And there you have it, find the Mars Rover right there in the ground. But anyway, yeah, that concludes the video, you guys, as far as things you may have missed in the Starfield gameplay trailer. Appreciate you guys watching. There's a lot more to the gameplay trailer and stuff that we could take another look at or diagnose further to break it down and assess it, but I kind of wanted to save a lot of that stuff for future gameplay reveal breakdown videos. But if you want to watch other videos that I've done on the gameplay trailer since it's come out, you can watch my Starfield in-depth character creation and customization video right there on the screen, and then also I did one recently on the combat skills of the game. So there wasn't a whole lot to work with from the trailer alone, but there's definitely plenty of stuff to dig into and dissect over the coming weeks, and hopefully soon we'll get something really substantial, which obviously the gameplay trailer was substantial, but I guess I mean a further development, a new video, a new feature, a new promo, something, you know, give us some more. We want more Starfield. Regardless, thanks a lot you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Keep an eye out for that next Starfield video as we look forward to the future.